talking to the sisters, and we're talking about leveling up as a woman. And that just that whole phrase, level up is, it's kind of new to me for my generation. Level up. That in that particular context, but the idea is not new to me. You know what I mean? The idea of raising your game to the next level, or maxing out your full potential, rising to the occasion, being the best version of yourself, meeting the challenge of doing better tomorrow than you're doing today, and having that internal sense of competition that you're not competing with him or her or them or they, but you're competing with the image of the best version of you on the inside. And as a consequence, you level up. When I was a kid, we would go to, back in those days, kids would go to the arcade after school and we would play the games, and we'd, play to see who was on what level. And everybody that excelled at the games were on a certain level, and would ask the question, what level are you on? I'm on level 10, I'm on level 20, I'm on level 30, and so forth and so on. And everybody was striving to what? To level up. Nobody was in there for the most part just seeking to be mediocre or average, but everybody was striving to level up. And so as I think about the whole idea of leveling up, and I look at, this generation, not only of women, but I'm talking to women today, but people in general are pretty much satisfied with the status quo. People are really sold on average. There are very few people who are really striving to level up. Now, there are a lot of people who want the fruits of next level living, you know what I mean? But there are very few who, they want the perks, but they don't necessarily want the process. And so today, what I'm hoping to do is to unpack for you the process of leveling up as a woman. Because I don't, we can sit here and we can talk all day about how, this happened to you and that happened to you, and you're stuck here and you have these problems, you have these bills, and this man left you and you have children and you don't have enough money. We can sit and talk all day about that. But the reality is that sitting here whining about your present circumstance is not going to improve or change your condition. At a certain point, you're going to have to engage a process that will pull you out of, come on now, that will pull you out of the state you're in and promote you going to the next level in your life as a woman. And I know you're surrounded with all of these negative voices about what women can't do, and a woman is not designed for this and a woman is not designed for that. Well, that depends on where you're getting your information from. If you're listening to the voices and the rhetoric of the world around you that's filled with hatred for women and misogynistic propaganda, you will never have confidence in yourself. You will never believe in yourself. You will never strive to level up. But when you really turn the volume down, the volume of the world, when you turn it down and you turn up, the voice of the Creator in your spirit, it is then that you begin to get His perspective on who you are and what's possible for you. And so that's my aim. That's why I utilize the Bible. It's because I believe it's the document that details the Creator's plan and thoughts concerning you as a woman, as a man, as a boy, as a girl. But speaking to this situation, leveling up as a woman, I want you to go to 2 Kings chapter 4, and there's an interesting story that I'd like to read for you relative to a woman who started on the bottom made her way to the top. She could have written a song, started on the bottom, now we're here. She started on the bottom, and when you get through, she gonna be here. She's a woman, she's a biblical character, she's a biblical representation of a woman that goes through the necessary process to level up. And if you're sitting there and you're saying, well, RC, I want to level up. I'm tired of being stuck on the bottom. I'm tired of coming from a beggar's position. I'm tired of being under the circumstances. I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to get on top. I'm ready to be the best version of myself. You need to look at this woman in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. It says, now one of the wives of a man of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha for help, saying, your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that your servant reverently feared the Lord, but the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves in payment for a loan. Elisha said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have of value in the house? She said, your maidservant has nothing in the house except a small jar of olive oil. Then he said, go borrow containers from all your neighbors, empty containers, and not just a few. Then you shall go in and shut the door behind you and your sons and pour out the oil you have into all these containers. And you shall set aside each one when it is full. So she left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They were bringing her the containers as she poured the oil. When the containers were all full, she said to her son, bring me another container. And he said to her, there is not a one left. Then the oil stopped multiplying. Then she came and told the man of God. He said, go sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live or can live on the rest. Here's a woman that leveled up. Long story short, she's married. Apparently she's trusting her husband to take care of all of the financial matters, which men did in that day and time and culture. He dies seemingly prematurely because he seems to have, young sons. And she discovers that he has debt that has not been paid. The creditor's coming to take her boys to make them slaves to pay off the debt that their father left. So now this woman is left in a desperate position, and she no longer has a husband to lean on or depend on. So now she has to think as an individual, she has to think independently, and she has to level up. Now, before we get into the meat of this discussion today, the first thing I want you to look at are the causes and the impact of her condition, which I think play into why so many women today are in inferior positions in life, and the impact that the woman's inferior position in life is having. I think we see it all conveyed here in the context of this woman's story. Number one, letter A, she had blind reliance on another. She had blind faith in her husband. And how many women do you know today who are foregoing education, foregoing advancing themselves, foregoing vision, foregoing ambitions in hopes that they'll get a man that will take care of them? And as I always say, you may very well be blessed to get a man that will take care of you, but who's to say that this man is not going to die prematurely? Who's to say that this man is not going to make some questionable choices in life and still put you behind the 8 ball? And you've put all of your eggs in that basket, and the basket that you've put your eggs in is not a basket. It's not even a basket that you control. So I teach women all of the time, before you pursue a relationship necessarily, put yourself in a position where if you have to pull the trigger, if you have to make certain decisions, if you have to get behind the wheel and drive, you're able to do that. It's unwise for a woman to ever put herself in a position where she's exercising blind reliance on another, no matter how noble, righteous, honorable, trustworthy this individual is. You should always be in a position where you are able to fend for yourself. So the first thing we see that put her in this position, that puts many women today in last place position when you should be first, is that you have blindly relied on not even proven people, unproven people. You've spent more time and money on your makeup than you have your mindset or your brains or your capacity. The second thing we see is that, and they kind of go together, she had this blind reliance on her husband who died prematurely, and then she discovers that, he kind of missed it on certain points. But the next thing we see is that we see the tragedy of her failure to actualize. Now, not to get ahead of myself, but we see after he dies and the desperation of, the people coming and wanting to take her sons and make them slaves brings the best out of her. Now, she always had that genius in her, but it took her husband dying and it took the creditors to come and say, we're going to make your boys slaves, for her to really step up to the plate and strive to actualize. We have a whole lot of genius women that are around here popping gum and putting lip gloss on all day, who just choose not to actualize because you have not had that rock bottom moment yet.
That's right.
You've not come to that place of desperation. You've been living under the influence of the lie that somehow you're going to make a life out of just being cute and fine. And so you don't have to actualize because you're 36, 24, 36. And you're just, you're 25 years old, you're 30 years old. You're in the prime of your life.
I got
Not understanding that life happens to all of us. But this woman failed to actualize. We see the tragedy of a woman that does not actualize. And just for the sake of those of you who may not know what I mean by actualize, in other words, God gives you an allotment of potential. God puts certain gifts within you.
Thank you.
But it is your responsibility to actualize, to actually become what God has invested in you, what God has deposited in you, actually manifest that. We see the tragedy of a woman that fails to actualize. She doesn't even think or contemplate actualization until her husband is dead. See, the concept of individuality was foreign to her, especially in her culture and in her time. You just kind of, relied completely on the man, but now the man is gone. And now she has no one to fall back on. She has to actualize. She has to move and think and function like an individual. When I personally believe that is the Creator's plan for all of us, that we become full, well-adjusted, functional individuals, and we maintain that individuality, and we bring two strong, whole individuals together to create a marriage. And then we see not only the causes, but now we see the impact. The impact of her not actualizing, the impact of her blind reliance on another was that her children were now in a position where they were getting ready to pay a price. And more times than not, the bad decisions or the indecision of the mother has an impact on the quality of life for the children. Of course, things fathers do or don't do quite often has an impact on the children. That can't be denied. But more times than not, it's what you choose to do as a woman with your life that's going to directly on a daily basis impact the quality of life for your children. Now, this woman, when her children were threatened, she came alive and she made a decision. She could have sat there and she could have mourned, she could have grieved, she could have just accepted it and just, whatever. But the interesting thing I love about this text is that when she goes to the prophet, he does not offer her a handout. He does not offer her welfare, in other words, but he gives her advice, which says a lot, and I won't get ahead of myself. But now let's get into the points. How did this woman level up? How can you, from where you are as a woman, begin to level up? Number one, come to terms with the reality of your situation. Come to terms with the reality of your situation. There are too many of you that are deceiving yourselves, and you're not accepting the reality of your situation. Some of you are hanging on to, I don't know what to call it. You can't call it a relationship, but you're hanging on to this and you're wasting up all of your best years with someone that's not truly committed to you and your children. You're just dragging your children along. You're emotionally invested in this person to the point that you have nothing really to give to your own children because you refuse to come to terms with the reality of your situation. You've wasted all of your best years popping gum, dressing skirts too short, having sex with random people and doing all of these foolish things. And now to face the truth is so hurtful that you choose to just live in a fog and pretend, like the ostrich, you stick your head in the sand and you're trying to pretend that, it's something it's not, that, somehow it's going to turn around for you. No, it's not going to turn around. You're going to have to turn around, and you can only turn around when you come to terms with the reality of your situation. What's the reality? You're broke. You have a closet full of bags with no money in them. Your cute meter is dropping rapidly as the world considers you cute or not. You're getting older. You should be getting wiser. The Bible says, shouldn't wisdom come with years? But with you've not really gained any wisdom. And because you're triggered by the thought of having wasted so much time and so much energy on stuff that has been completely futile and unproductive, rather than facing your truth, the truth, the Bible says, shall set you free. Rather than facing your truth, you're still running around here year after year after year after year, ignoring it, hoping that somehow things are going to turn around for you miraculously. God steps in miraculously for those who step in for themselves. You have to come to terms with the reality of your situation. When these creditors came to this woman and said, your husband was in debt when he died. I feel sorry for you, but the debt got to be paid. We're going to take your sons and make them slaves. She came to terms with the reality of her situation. Now, what is the reality of your situation right now? I know it's hard to think. I know it's hard to admit, but you cannot move on from it until I cannot give you directions to arrive at a certain preferred destination until I can locate where you presently are. If you say to me, how do I get to where you are, Bishop Blakes, present in Jackson, Mississippi? How can I get to the hotel where you're at? Well, I can give you my address, but I can't really give you directions until you can tell me exactly where you are. And it's when we can locate where you are that we can chart a path to where you want to go. So you have to come to terms with the reality of your situation, because that's called locating yourself. And the Bible says in Galatians chapter 6, verses 3 and 4, for if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, you keep fooling yourself, he deceiveth himself. You keep putting this lipstick on the pig. You keep using this mascara therapy. You want to put all the MAC makeup on and put all of the high heel, leopard skin Louboutins on and all of this kind of stuff. And behind all of that stuff that you're hiding behind, your life is a wreck. You're going to have to come to terms with the reality of your situation, because if you don't, you're living a life where you're deceiving yourself. And verse 4 of Galatians 6 says, but let every man or woman prove his or her own work, and then shall she have rejoicing in herself alone and not in another. But you're going to have to come to terms with the reality of your situation. What's your reality? I see the stuff you posting all over social media, and I'll be honest with you, y'all got to get a foundation under yourselves. As women, you got to get a foundation under yourself. It's more than you just sitting on Instagram taking all of these pictures in all of these places with other people's cars and trying to paint this fabulous life that you're doing no work at all in your real life to produce for yourself. It's like you're satisfied with just an image of a lifestyle rather than coming to terms with your situation and doing the work to actually build the foundation to live the life you dream about. You can't level up until you come to terms with the reality of where you are.
Right back at you.
Number two, once you figure out where you are, the second thing you're going to have to do is find the right mentors. Once you locate yourself and you come to terms with the reality of where you are, now it's going to become clear to you where you're deficient, what you're lacking, and now you're going to be able to figure out, okay, I need some help in this area. I need some help in money. I need some help in my health area. I need some help with my relationships. I need some help with my inner healing, my self-esteem. You're going to be able to figure all of these things out. And then you're going to have to understand that, watch this, if you always had the ability to subsidize these areas by yourself, you would have done it. So now you're going to begin to tap into the reality that I'm going to need some mentors and teachers. What am I doing every time I come to you on this platform? Really, I'm mentoring you. I'm mentoring you like a father would mentor a daughter. Some of you are older than me. It doesn't matter. I'm mentoring you like a father would mentor a daughter. You're going to have to find the right mentors. See, mentors are people who are akin to your destiny. They are related to your destiny. They relate to your future in certain areas. Mentors are people who are presently living in your future. And what you do is you employ them to pour their knowledge, their wisdom, their understanding of the process into you so that you can begin to heal and you can begin to transcend, the brokenness, the trauma, the mistakes. It takes mentors. You see, once you know who you are, you now know who you need. Once you know where you are, once you locate yourself and you say, okay, this is where I'm at, this is my reality, but this is where I'm going. Now you know not only where you are, who you are, but now you know what you need or who you need. The Bible says in Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens and influences another through discussion. See, iron what sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. One woman sharpens another. If you look in Proverbs 9:9 and the Amplified, it reads like this: give instruction to a wise man and he will become even wiser. Teach a righteous man and he will increase his learning. But you see, when you know who you are and you know where you're going, you know what you desire, iron sharpens iron. You know who belongs in your life. You know who relates to you. You can't use wood to sharpen iron. You can't use plastic to sharpen iron. It's not until you begin to get a revelation of locating yourself where you are and knowing where you plan on going, what your hopes and dreams are, that you actually know who belongs in your life and who has the capacity to sharpen you, that you might level up. Give instruction to a wise man and he will become even wiser. You know, not only do you know who your mentors are, who belongs in your life, you also know who's a waste of your time. And you begin to make space in your life by getting rid of people who are not adding to you, who may be nice people, but they're not helping you to level up. They're not pouring into you next level data. I like what the Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11:1. He says, imitate me just as I imitate Christ. You see, once you locate yourself and you say, okay, this is where I'm at, but this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is where I want to go. Now you know who belongs in your life. So you find mentors and teachers who are presently living in your future. And as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11:1, imitate me just as I imitate Christ. These are people that you don't become a clone of them, but you imitate their principles. You see, I tell the story all the time of how, when I'm in places where there's a shoe shine man, I for years, for decades even, I've sat on shoe shine stands and, it's like, I don't know what happens. It's like I zone out. I love the shine. When they're done, I love the shine. But the interesting thing, I guess it's human nature. I love the outcome, but I never pay attention to the process. So I sit there, I pay for it, but I never watch and say, well, let me see exactly what he's doing so I can imitate it and duplicate the process and create the same outcomes on my own. So as a consequence, I always have to pay for it. But when you have mentors save you steps. Mentors are like time machines. They save you time. In fact, about it, you may have wasted a whole decade of your life. When you get the right mentors in your life, the mentors will make up the time that you've lost. Because once you locate yourself and you come to terms with your present reality, and then you locate the mentors that belong in your life and people that are already living in your future, they make up time for you. And you begin to learn the things, you begin to learn the language, you begin to learn the principles that you should have been learned.
One is open, check it.
Now, number three, do a revised appraisal of your value. You see, once your soul begins to heal from the trauma and the indoctrination, and you elevate your perspective through your mentors as you're leveling up, you're going to have to simultaneously do a revised appraisal of yourself based on the Creator's view. You see, because in most cases, your present appraisal is bogus. It's like you're selling a piece of property and you get an appraiser that has issues with you for whatever reason, and they devalue your property. And what they send back to the bank does not coincide with the loan amount that the person that's trying to buy the property has willingly offered to pay. Well, you got a bogus appraisal. And see, for a lot of us, your self-appraisal presently is based on what dysfunctional, abusive relationships dictated, what society has dictated about you as a woman. Sometimes your dysfunctional and toxic family has served to devalue you in your own eyes. And so now as you're leveling up, you're going to have to do a revised appraisal of your own value. This is a part of the process of pulling away from trying to entertain all of these relationships and doing your personal work before you re-enter. You need to re-enter with an updated, proper appraisal of yourself based on the Creator's perspective concerning you. Because right now you are miserably devalued based on a few factors. And so as you face your reality, and as you bring mentors into your life to help you to shift your mindset, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, thirdly, you're going to have to revise your self-appraisal. And see, you kind of know, you can kind of locate your present appraisal based on your self-talk. See, like if you're constantly saying to yourself, I can't do it, I don't measure up, I don't fit in, I'm not qualified, you automatically know that you have what? You have devalued yourself. And now there has to be some work done within you to revise the appraisal of your own value. Because if you devalue yourself, how much more is the world going to mark you down? If you're entering into this world and you don't know your value, you have to already understand that the world is automatically established to talk you down off of your true worth. I remember Lisa and I were selling a property, and for me, I just want to get it over. That's my personality, let's just get it done. Let's just get it done. And so we were, with our real estate person, we were talking about, well, what should we ask for? And the real estate person said, well, based on the market, you should probably ask for this, and based on comps, you should probably ask for this. And it was a lesser amount than Lisa was satisfied with, but I was like, okay, we're gonna make money on that. So, let's just go for it. Lisa was like, no. I want to ask for this. And so me and the real estate person were here. Lisa was here. And lo and behold, sure enough, I don't even think it was a week, some days later, offer came in, the people accepted the offer that Lisa just insisted we should ask for. You see, if you don't know your value, if you're not certain about your value, the world will always devalue you. So you're going to have to do a revised appraisal of your value. Just stop for a minute and think about all that's great about you. Think about what you actually bring to the table. Stop factoring in the mistakes you've made. Stop factoring in your past. See, too many of you ladies, you've let the world indoctrinate you because you had children, because you have multiple fathers by your children. You're automatically disqualified. That is a lie. That's a complete, total, and utter lie. You have to stop, and you have to unlearn. You have to get all of this stuff, detox your soul from all of these lies the world has poured into you relative to why you're not worthy. And you have to do a new appraisal of yourself. Because while you're trying to settle for this, like me and the real estate person were doing, you need to have a mindset like Lisa's that says, no, this is my value, this is my worth, and make the world come up to meet you. at the standard of your own appraisal. Watch this, not a baseless appraisal, but based on the Creator's perspective of you. Come on now. And then you see, watch this, when Lisa said, this is where we're going. This is what we're going to ask for, and the people accept it. Now we still have to wait for the appraiser to come to say, okay, the property is worth this much. Can I tell you, the appraiser came back and appraised the property. And this was not like a backroom deal. I didn't know this person. We didn't know this person. They appraised the property for exactly what Lisa said it was worth.
Mary,
the world will always value you based on your own estimation. So as you level up, you must do a revised appraisal of your own value. Listen to what the Bible says in Matthew 10, 29 through 31. Listen to what it says. Listen to what it says, if I can get there. Matthew 10, 29 through 31, he says, are not two little sparrows sold for a copper coin? And yet not one of them falls to the ground apart from the Father's will or the Creator's will. But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered, for the Father is sovereign and has complete knowledge. So do not fear, you are more valuable than many sparrows. You have to do a revised appraisal of your value based on what the Creator says about you. So many of you need to do that because you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in yourself. And you've allowed the world to back you into the corner because, it's just mistakes. You make mistakes. But it's something different about women making mistakes, than we as men making mistakes. It's like we make mistakes, and it's like we have a right to be human and to make mistakes and to have errors in our lives. Whereas it's like you all don't believe you're supposed to have any flaws or mistakes. And just because I make a mistake, it does not devalue me. So you're going to have to stop and do the work to do a revised appraisal of your value. You're going to have to know your value for yourself. Like the writer says, that his soul knoweth right well what the Lord has. In other words, he was saying in his own mind, he knew exactly who he was in God. Come on now. Glory to God. In his own soul, he didn't need anybody from the outside to convince him of his value. Because in his own soul, he knew his worth in God. You're going to have to, if you're going to level up, see, you can't level up. You're trying to level up with your money, your cars, and your houses, but you got to level up from the inside out, because what's happening on the inside of you is the foundation. Come on now. Coming to terms with your reality, finding the right mentors, doing a revised appraisal of your own value is doing what? Building your foundation. And then watch this. Once you've done a revised or a revision of your value, now you must begin to establish a vision. See, you were stuck on the bottom. You were stuck on struggle. You were hanging out, below average because you never had a vision. Nobody ever told you that you really needed a vision. So now that you are conscious, you're finally woke. Now you're going to begin to do what? Establish a vision. You're going to stop obsessing over a man, a relationship, and all of this other stuff the world says that you gotta have to be a woman of value. And you're going to begin to establish a vision for your life. Glory to God. You see, at this point, it's about taking ownership of your future, because women that level up take ownership of their own future. You can't change the past, but you must absolutely take responsibility for your future. You can't change what happened, but you must absolutely take control of what is coming down the line. You must establish a vision for your life. What is your preferred future? What does your future look like as an individual? I don't hear that about, well, I want a husband and I want a picket fence and all that. I mean, that's wonderful. But as an individual, who are you? What are you here for? What are you going to accomplish? See, you need to really, to qualify for the kind of man most of you desire, you need to have a personal vision and you need to be in pursuit of it. And some of it needs to be manifesting to even have a life that calls for that kind of man. So you're going to have to establish your vision. If you're going to level up, nobody levels up without a vision. And the Bible says in Psalms 37:23, the steps of a good and righteous man are directed and established by the Lord, the steps of, and he delights in his way and blesses his path. So God ordains your success, but you must strategize it. You must make the move. What is the purpose of a vision? The purpose of a vision, it's like a map. It's a map that says, okay, here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. Here's the vision, step by step by step by step. Habakkuk says, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, plural, that he may run that readeth it. Because the vision is going to come in multiple steps and phases. Short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. But your steps, the steps of a good man, are directed or ordered by the Lord, and God will establish, God will delight in his way and bless his path. But you got to have a what? Vision. You can't just sit around hoping and wishing as a woman. I hope and I wish, and all you hoping and wishing for is a man to show up. I get it. You need a man. You're a woman. You want a man. That's natural. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But there's some things you must do. There's some things that are in your control. Self-actualization is your responsibility. It's in your control. In fact, about it, your self-actualizing is becoming the woman that is the kind of woman that the man you're looking for is looking for. The reason many women can't seem to attract the kind of man they're looking for is because they've not become the kind of woman that the man they're looking for is searching for. Everybody talks about Ruth and Boaz, but what attracted Boaz to Ruth really was that Ruth was on her grind. She was in pursuit. She was trying to get it. God ordains your success, but you must strategize it. And that's what vision is. It is the strategizing. I was trying to make a fancy word up there. Y'all forgive me. It is the strategizing of your process to destiny. Deuteronomy 11:23-24 says, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. Every place, here it is, every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours. From the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river, the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall your coast be. But watch this. God says, I've ordained it, but you're going to have to walk it out wherever your feet tread. How do you know where to walk? Your vision. If you don't walk it out, it doesn't matter that God ordained it. You will never obtain it. And then watch this. Number 5. How does a woman level up? Create your vision. And then watch this. Number 5, isolate and work your plan. I can tell you now, you're not leveling up if you out at a bar, a lounge, or a club 3 and 4 nights a week. You ain't leveling up at all. You just hanging out with your girlfriends. You ain't leveling up. You're not leveled up because you got, a Dior jumpsuit. You're not leveled up because you walking around with with a Gucci bag. You're not leveled up, my dear, because you drive in a Jag or a Benz or Beamer or whatever you want. That ain't leveling up. There's a whole lot of broke folk walking around with all that stuff. If you're going to level up, you're going to have to isolate and work your plan. In other words, you're going to have fewer nights out and more nights in. You're going to have to take the time. Most valuable thing you possess right now is your time. You're going to have to invest your time back into yourself, perfecting and developing you, that you might see, because you are your product to the world. You have to be able to present the best product to the world. So it means that you're going to have to pull away from the crowd and isolate and then work your plan. Take that vision that you have and begin to figure that thing out. Work your plan step by step by step. And the Bible says in Proverbs 31:31, give her of the fruit of her hands and let her own works praise her in the gates. Let her own works praise her in the gates. She's not out here on the scene making a whole lot of noise, but she's isolated. She's behind the scene. She's put her head down and she's doing her work. And what's happening is the fruit of her life is speaking for her. She's not out here flossing and flaunting and trying to show off, but the fruit of her life is speaking on her behalf. How do you level up? Number 6, watch the Creator partner with you. See, once you do all of these things, once you do your due diligence as a woman, you know, you just do your inner work, you begin to do your outer work, your private work, and you really put your head down and you go to grinding, then God steps in and he partners with you. There are many folk that are praying for miracles that will never get them, because there's a saying, there's an old saying, God helps those who help themselves. There's a certain part of your life that God has assigned to your hand for you to do. And when you do your part, that's the natural part. Then God will step in and do his part. That's the super part. When you put your part with God's part, you have the supernatural. Now your life takes on a whole different dimension. It's like everything that you put your hands to begins to prosper. You're talking about leveling up. Your money shifts. Your relationships go to a brand new level. Everything shifts because now you're in a place where the Creator partners with you. It's the place of favor and grace. And in Psalms 1, 2, and 3, it says, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law, his precepts and teachings, he habitually meditates day and night. And he will be like a tree firmly planted and fed by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season. Its leaf does not wither. And in whatever he does, he prospers and comes to maturity. This is when you get to a point in your life where everything pops off. Your business, everything concerning you. Your money begins to multiply. Spiritually, you're on another level. Relationally, you're on another level. It's because you've taken your life seriously and you've done your work, from healing to preparation to self-development to self-discovery, all of these things. And in whatever you put your hand to, it prospers. And then number 7, and I'm done. Number 7, and I'm done. Organize your financial life. Now, when you look back over these things, you can see this lady in all of this. The lady that we started off with, the little lady whose husband died, she came to terms with the reality of her situation. She immediately went and found the prophet. Number 2, she found the right mentor for her situation to get out of it. Number 3 is do a revised appraisal of your value. The first thing the prophet told the lady asked her, what do you have in house? She said, I just have a little pot of oil. So she had to go back. He advised her to go and borrow vessels and reappraise what she already had, because what you have is the key to what you need. Then he said, gather a bunch of vessels and not just a few. What was that indicative of? Number 4, establishing a vision. She saw a preferred future, and he said, begin to pour out. Brings us to number 5, actually. It says, isolate and work your plan. He says, you and your boys, lock the door, isolate yourselves, and work the plan that I give you. And then as they work the plan, number 6, they watched the Creator partner with them. They started pouring that oil. She started pouring that oil, and the oil just kept pouring until all of the other vessels were full, because the Creator got involved with the process. Number 7, she goes back to the prophet after all of the vessels are full, and she says, I got all of this oil. What to do? He says, sell it. He says, sell it, pay off your debt, and you and your sons live of the rest, which speaks of number 7, organize your financial life. Leveling up as a woman requires that you organize your financial life. Put your financial life in order. Don't be a woman out here looking like a million that's not worth a dime. Organize your financial life. I'd rather you look like a dime and be worth a million than for you to look like a million and be worth a dime. Because if you look like a dime but you're worth a million, we can always change your look. But if you're looking like a million and you're not worth a dime, we can't do nothing about your financial reality. Organize your financial life as a woman. Stop taking your money lightly. So excited to be able to share with you today. Would you do me a favor? Share this with someone, invite someone to come in and to be a part of this discussion, this lesson, this message today. I don't know why my tongue is so slow. I have something that is on my heart that I know is going to resonate with a lot of you. Some of you it's going to resonate with you in this present season of your life. For others of you, this message is for seasons that are yet to come. I want to talk about understanding and dealing with passive-aggressive people. Understanding and dealing with passive-aggressive people. The higher you go in life, the more you're going to encounter passive-aggressive people. Now, let me start this by saying none of us are really in a position to point our fingers or necessarily to judge another, because all of us at some point in time have behaved passive aggressively, for different reasons, some of which we're going to deal with today. So this is not this is not the message that you send to them as much as it is the message that you really take in and do some introspection and ask yourself, where am I at? How do I align? How do I line
That's
up
right.
with
Share it, sis.
some of the things that we're going to talk about today? But understanding and dealing with passive aggressive people, it's very, very real. If you look in Proverbs 26, verses 23 through 25, it says, burning lips and a wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with silver dross. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Passive aggressive, passive aggressive. It seems like a paradox of some kind that a person can be passively aggressive. And it's happening on a daily. It happens on the job. It happens in the home quite a lot. It happens in relationships, within friendships, passive aggressive people. Now, these are just thoughts that the Holy Spirit gave to me that I'm sharing with you. But the clearest sign of being involved in a passive aggressive connection of some kind, or in a passive aggressive relationship, one of the clearest signs is fluctuating energy. When you're dealing with a person that is passive aggressive, it's exhausting, because it's like they keep changing the temperature of the relationship. It's like, it's like you're on high this morning, you're down low tonight. You talk to them on the phone tonight, and you talk to them again tomorrow. It's a whole different ball game. It's because they keep changing the thermostat, the temperature of the relationship, because the aim is what? The manipulation of you. So whenever you're involved with a person that it feels like it's just a lot of work to be their friend, and you just can't put your finger on it, but it's like the relationship is just up and down, and it's like there are no issues that have been addressed, but you can sense that things are constantly shifting. The person's attitude is changing. Their mood seems to be changing, and for all you know, they don't have a chemical imbalance, but you're trying to figure it out. But passive aggressive relationships create fluctuating energy. Anybody that is healthy, genuine, sincere, and authentic in your life is a person that is consistent. When you start dealing with a person whose energy is constantly changing, you're trying to marry somebody, and that energy is constantly changing, you need to really time out. You need to take a pause. You need to look at that person's, you need to look deep within that person. Look deep. Judge Maybelline used to say, look deep before you leap, because energy never lies. And when a person is behaving passive aggressively, you will always sense, you will always discern that the energy of the relationship is always shifting. Even if you can't, be definitive or put your finger on it, enough to know in your spirit and even in your good mind that something is not right here. Go to Acts chapter 16. Let me show this to you in scripture. Acts chapter 16, verses 16 through 18, it says, "And it came to pass as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High God." She seems to be friendly, right? "These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation." There's the passive part. "And this did she many days." Every day she would come out and she would say these nice things about them. "These men are the servants of the Most High God. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved," he felt the energy. He was looking at her actions and listening to her words, but her energy was saying something different. Have you ever been involved with a person like that on a romantic level, on a friendship level, on a professional level, on a church level, that they seem to be saying and doing all of the right things. They seem like they were, or are good people, but there was something that just wasn't right about that energy. These men are the servants of the Most High God, was showing us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. So that is a great indicator that you're dealing with someone that's passive aggressive. When you constantly feel the shift in the energy, and how do you know that the energy is shifting? It is when there is a fluctuating peace. It's like one moment you're around this person, they're the greatest person in the world. The next moment, you don't know what in the world happened. You see, the aim of passive aggression is to create confusion in its victim. Passive aggression is a means of forcing compliance from a passive posture. It's when I don't want to just tell you, this is what I want, and this is how I want you to do it. Or I can't make you do what I want you to do. So I begin to manipulate moments. I begin to manipulate the atmosphere to passively, aggressively force you into complying to what I want you to do. A passive aggressive person is one who appears to comply with a request, but actually resists in subtle ways. The resistance can range from pouting, just sitting around pouting, to, delayed vindictiveness or delayed anger or delayed aggression or delayed violence even, passive aggression. So it is designed to force you into complying to what I want you to do. From the silent treatment to ghosting, they say they want you to do X, Y, Z, and you say, I don't think I can do it. And they just go silent, and then they leave, and then you don't hear from them for 3 or 4 days. Well, what is that? That's manipulation. That's passive aggression. That's somebody trying to passively force you into complying with their will, trying to break you away from your will, your decisions, and force you into complying with what they want you to do. Now, again, we all exhibit, all of us, none of us are exempt, even from babies. Babies use passive. They come here knowing how to use passive aggression. Since they can't physically, have their way, they'll just scream and holler. And then, nothing wrong with them, because once the mama picked them up, they just shut it up. They're looking around, looking at everybody. What did they just do? They just passively, I'm trying to figure out how to say that, aggressively forced mother into complying with what they wanted her to do. They were tired of sitting in that crib or lying in that bed or sitting in that car seat. So they just screamed and hollered because they've learned how. I don't even know if that's passive. I think that's aggression, just pure aggression, to be honest with you. But back to my point, we all exhibit passive aggressive behaviors. Usually, again, as children, when it was not safe for us to openly rebel, when we get a little older, 3, 4, 5, 6, we know better. And, you know, rebellion came with consequences. It's not like like it was when you were, you know, a little baby in a crib or a little toddler. Now you old enough to understand better. And so now there are consequences. So you can't just openly rebel. So as children, we learn to passively, aggressively manage moments. I remember when I was a little boy, I guess I was about 5. I had to be 5 or 6, something like that. And man, my mom didn't give me something that I wanted and I asked for. And I said, well, I'm leaving here. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. If my mom is watching, she can attest to this. I'm leaving. I'm gone. And I had a little suitcase. I don't know why I had a suitcase, but I had a little suitcase about as big as this Bible. It's a little handle on it. And I took my little soldiers and my little whatever else I had, my little cap gun, and put all my little stuff in my little bag. And I said, I'm leaving. And I walked out of the house and I walked down to the corner. Nobody came for me. Nobody ran behind me. Nobody ran behind me. And I stood there and for a while and I said, I'm thinking to myself, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And eventually I guess my mom was looking through the window, making certain I was all right. I made my way back onto the house and came on in pouting, and went on back to my little room. But as we mature, we move away from childhood passive aggression. As we mature, we should learn, here it is, we should learn healthier and more mature behavior to communicate our feelings, to establish boundaries, and to express disagreements more openly rather than playing all of these games. The Apostle Paul said, when I was a child, I spake, I thought, and I behaved like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. But here's the reality. There are many of us who are grown chronologically, gray hair and all, that are still functioning like the little boy I was when I took my little case and was trying to force my mother to comply with what I wanted her to comply with. Now, the Bible does not use the term or the phrase passive aggression, but it does give us, characters, biblical characters who exhibited passive aggressive tendencies or behavior. And it shows us even the results of some of that behavior. Now, passive aggressive people, in my opinion, which we have a lot of in the church, passive aggressive people are possibly more dangerous than openly aggressive ones, because you never see, or should I say, you rarely see their attacks coming. A person that just says, I don't like what you did, and this is how I feel about it, is a much better person to deal with than someone or a person that says, this is what I want, give me what I want. If you don't give me what I want, I'm out. That person is much easier to deal with, much better to deal with than to deal with a person that'll smile in your face and act like they're perfectly all right with your decision. Oh, I understand. It's cool. It's cool. And you think you have an understanding, and then they leave away from there. You're used to hearing from them 2 or 3 times a day. You don't hear from them for 3 or 4 days. What is that? That's passive aggression. Or for a person to say, oh, I'm good, I understand. And then you can feel the temperature of the environment change. And then, there's this awkwardness. There's this awkward silence in the car. Maybe you all are riding together. There's this awkward silence in the car because passive aggressive people are more dangerous than openly aggressive people. Let me show you an example of this. In Luke chapter 22, verses 47 and 48, it reads like this: And while he yet spake, behold, a multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them, before the multitude that was coming to snatch Jesus up. And Judas drew near unto Jesus, watch this, to kiss him. But Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? What is that? That is the ultimate exhibition of passive aggression. Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss. That is the thing that makes passive aggressive people so dangerous, is that they look like they love you. They act like they love you. They behave like they are with you. And on the back side of their behavior are knives and daggers that are piercing through your back. And watch this. Here's what makes it even the more dangerous. While they are outwardly kissing you, they are inwardly betraying you. And the people that surround you, who are there to protect you many times, may believe that they are your friend because of their external behavior. You know, passive aggressive speech and behavior are cowardly ways, many times, of avoiding conflict. Yeah, cowardly ways of avoiding conflict. Now, again, I say, all of us, you know, at certain times have exhibited some of these characteristics in our relationships. Maybe there were times you just didn't have the courage to deal with a family member, or you didn't have the courage to deal with a friend, afraid that they're going to take it the wrong way and reject you or something like that. And rather than just coming straight to the point and dealing with the issue, you chose some passive aggressive, maneuvers. And maybe you got what you wanted, but was that right? No, it wasn't right. It's never right. And all of us are guilty, or at least most of us are guilty. It's never right to use passive aggressive maneuvers on people that you love. It's better for us to practice being able to be honest with one another. But the people I'm talking about are people who make a living using passive aggressive maneuvers on people 24/7, people that are more like narcissists. But these people pretend to be pleasant while inwardly they are burning up with resentment. We fool ourselves into believing that, we somehow have this BFF, and the reality is your blood pressure would go down if you discern this devil you calling your BFF, or even marrying somebody who's just constantly using passive aggressive maneuvers. That's what happens with men quite a lot. Men that marry women that have that Jezebel spirit. And again, the Jezebel spirit even resides in men. But I'm talking about men right now who marry women who manipulate the man with passive aggressive maneuvers. She knows how much the man loves her. So, she plays that against the man, silent treatment, pouting, just sitting around the man's house, ruining the climate of the man's house. And the man, what's wrong? What's wrong? What can I do? What can I do? And before you know it, man, this woman is taking your pants off of you, taking all your manhood away from you. Through what? Passive aggressive maneuvers. Now, there's an ancient Chinese proverb that defines passive aggression like this. Listen to this carefully. Behind the smile is a hidden knife. Behind the smile, you see how plastic that is a hidden knife. Now, let me give you some examples of passive aggressive behavior. and I kind of alluded to some of this already, but I want to make certain that this soaks into your spirit. Number one, non-communication. When there's clearly something that is an issue or problematic, something that needs to be worked through, a person that won't communicate. I'm all right. I'm all right. Forget about it. Forget about it. I'm good. I'm good. Well, what is that? What is that? What is that, man? Come on now. What is that? That's passive aggression. You know, you clearly got an issue. You got something that you don't agree with. You feel like you've been wronged, something you don't understand. But rather than talking about it, you just say you don't communicate. That's passive aggression. But you do enough to make certain that the environment is spoiled, that you ruin the environment for the team, that you ruin the environment for the family, that you ruin the environment for the friendship, and then you don't want to communicate. You have a bad enough spirit that everybody involved can feel the tension. You can cut it with a butter knife, but then you don't want to communicate. Passive aggressive. You're trying to break everybody down, make everybody pay a price for not doing what you want them to do, and this way you're going to teach them to just follow your lead. You see, that's demonic. That's witchcraft. In Matthew chapter 18 and 15, it says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. He says, what is the principle of the text? If you have an issue, communicate it. And don't go around, which is another form of passive aggression. Don't go around the circle or the family or the church or the workplace talking to all of these other people. Go to the one that you say you have the issue with. Go to your brother alone. Nobody else should know about y'all's stuff but you and the person. But a lot of y'all, before you ever talk to the individual, you've talked to 30 or 40 other people about something that you should have gone to the individual about. Why were you talking to them? You are passive aggressively, I'm still trying to figure out how to say that. You are passive aggressively trying to ruin the man or the woman's circle so that the circle can close in and do your enforcement for you. Second example, self-pity, or oh me, oh my, I'm always the one. I'm always the one that everybody forget about. That's all right, though. I'm all right. God got me. And now you got everybody, you ruined the atmosphere for the whole gathering. Everybody rubbing on you. And there you crying, ooh, 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 acting like you so broke up. And then looking up one eye, ooh, trying to see who looking, who paying attention. You demon, you demonic spirit, come here and ruin this atmosphere with this self-pity stuff. Number 3, blaming others for your situation rather than taking responsibility for your own actions. See that quite often. You haven't done what you need to do to succeed, and you want to blame everybody else. You're going to start off with your daddy and your mama, then your siblings. They didn't support me. Daddy wasn't there. Mama didn't love me as much as she loved my... Come on, man. Go sit down with all of that crazy stuff. Your daddy wasn't there because he's trying to earn a living to pay for that roof that was over your head and all that food you sat up there and ate and all those books you had at school and all those tennis shoes you wore out. Blaming others for your situation rather than taking responsibility for your own actions or being able to take on, the maturity to say, this is why I'm where I'm at. Ain't nobody else's fault. This is why I'm where I'm at. But you wanna take and you wanna manipulate other people because okay, let me leave that alone. Number 4, learned helplessness, this is where a person just continually acts as if they can't help themselves. This is where users usually thrive, users, they just users thrive on this. People that just use others for a living. Just, can't help themselves. I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. Learned helplessness. Don't want a job. Don't want to do anything to help yourself. Listen to what the Bible says in 2 Thessalonians 3, 10 through 12. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus Christ, that with quietness they work and eat their own bread. I see this all the time in the church. People who manipulate other folk, I just can't do it. I can't help myself. They don't want an opportunity. They don't want to hand up. They want to hand out. They don't want to do anything for themselves. They want to be able to just roam through the church and use other folks' resources and make people feel guilty if they don't comply with their wishes. Here's the fifth thing: avoiding or ignoring people or situations when you're so angry, where you just avoid or ignore people. Ignoring people that play an intricate role in your life, that's nothing but passive aggressiveness in most cases. Number 6, obstructing by deliberately stalling or preventing an event or process of change. I see this happening a lot in ministry, on teams, where when people can't lead it, or it doesn't go the way they want it to go, they'll intentionally hold their part up to slow down the progress of the whole. Number 7, sitting around sulking, just a sad spirit, come sit up in the church. And I talk about church because that's my context. They just sit up here with a sad spirit there. What's wrong with you, baby? What's wrong with you? I don't know, Pastor, just look like he got something against me. I've never even had a conversation with you. What are you talking about? He just looked like he got something again. And before I know it, you got a whole crowd out there. You got a whole congregation on the front lawn of the church. And then number 8, chronic lateness, just always late. To put yourself in control of others and their expectations of you. All right, now let's look at this here. Understanding and dealing with passive aggressive people. The energy of passive aggressiveness leads to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I've outlined. I'm certain that there are more, but these are the 5 that came to mind for me. The energy of passive aggressiveness is as such. Remember, I told you that you're dealing with a person that is passive aggressive because the energy of your environment constantly changes. You find your own mood shifting around this person, and the way you think about yourself is constantly shifting. It's, there are few things that the passive aggressor works to inject into his or her victim. Number 1 is guilt. Passive aggressive people work to make you feel guilty. You find this quite a lot with ungrateful children that have grown up and, have grown old but have not grown up. And now they're adults and they want to make you feel guilty, because once you feel guilty, they know that you'll open your wallet to them. You got to stop opening that wallet for these grown people who need to go get jobs. But guilt, the passive aggressor is so skilled in his or her craft that they can cheat on you. They can cheat on you, and then you can bust them cheating. And when they get through talking to you, they'll make you feel like you were the cause of them cheating, and you find yourself apologizing to them for putting them in a position to have to cheat. That's how demonic, that's how manipulative this situation is. They are skilled surgeons with the scalpel of guilt. And they'll transfer that. They'll put that guilt trip on you, man. And before you know it, you've done nothing wrong. You've actually done more than you should have done. They'll have you reaching for more, trying to do more for them because they have employed the spirit of guilt in the process of forcing you to comply with what they want you to do. The next thing I list is blame. Blame. You know, and the two kind of bleed out of one another. They'll find a way to make you take and accept the blame for something you had absolutely nothing to do with. The third kind of energy that passive aggressive people employ is guilt, blame, shame. Shame. They want to make you feel shame. Now, not directly, but indirectly. You know, if there's okay, let me leave that alone. Number 4, deflection. They'll take their issues and they'll deflect it so that it lands on you. Stuff that's really meant for them, they'll deflect it, and they'll deflect it in a way that you take ownership of it. And then the 5th one is criticism. They keep an energy or environment or a climate of criticism. They are very destructively critical. Now, people who practice passive aggressiveness, you know, are of a certain kind of nature, and I've listed 1, 2, 3, 4. Could have gone on, but I just wanted to highlight these. People who practice passive aggressiveness are, number 1, listen to this very carefully. Powerless people often resort to passive aggressiveness. Now, these are the people who utilize or use passive aggressiveness who are actually victims. But because they are victims who do not have power, they cannot directly resist. So they begin to utilize passive aggressive methods to hurt their victimizer. If you look in Colossians chapter 3, verses 18 through 21, it says, "Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as it is fit in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well pleasing unto the Lord. Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged." Well, you have here the husband and the father, you have the wife and the children. And the wives and the children are many times in a position or a posture where they are left powerless under the auspices of the husband and the father. Many times the man is the one that has the money, the man is the stronger, the man is the most dominant. And so the Bible is saying, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as is fit in the Lord, as is fit in the Lord. Go search that out. That's another lesson for another day. You're not just supposed to submit blindly or just a blank check. But then it says, husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. Why? Because you have a position of authority over her. Parents have a position of authority over the children. When we abuse positions of authority, as a pastor, when I walk into New Home Family Worship Center, I have a position of authority. If I abuse my authority, there are people that are part of that congregation that don't have the power or the authority to be able to kick against what I might be doing, even if it's wrong sometimes. And a whole lot of pastors abuse their authority. And what you do is you then generate a climate in the church or in the organization or in the family or with the children where the wife begins to passively aggress. The children begin to passively aggress against, aggressive parents. Now, the bad thing with that is when people are powerless and they begin to utilize passive aggression to express themselves, it does not stop there. If you're discovering that a woman is having to resort to passive aggression to meet your unfair, unrealistic demands as a husband, or your children are resorting to passive aggressive tendencies because as parents you're cruel and you're mean and diabolical, well, it's not going to stop there. Passive aggression in this case is only the beginnings. This is going to move to an outright rebellion at a certain point, because the children are not always going to be smaller and younger, and your children are going to grow up, become adults. In some cases, they're going to become bigger and stronger than you. And when you've misparented them, and all they could do as children was, be passive aggressive, now they're full-blown grown adults, and now that passive aggression turns into outright rebellion and disrespect. There are a lot of people who claim, well, their grown children are this and that, and it's ridiculous how they treat their parent. But we don't have the videotape on how you parented them when they were babies. There's always two sides to a coin, to a story. Number two, people who practice passive aggression, people who feel entitled. I don't like people who feel entitled. You are not entitled to anything. People who feel entitled practice passive aggression. Just feel like everybody's supposed to do this for me. And when you don't get your way, you start pouting, you become difficult. I don't, if I ever go out with you and you behave like that, you'll never have to worry about you and I hanging out again. I don't like people who feel entitled, because when you feel entitled and you come to a restaurant that's popular and the line is long, hey, you the only one in the line complaining, this line is too long. Well, if it's too long, you don't need to stand in the people's line outside of their restaurant, complaining. Just say, whoever you're with, oh, it seems like a lot of people here. Let's try somewhere else. But you don't need to go there and then, throwing your weight around. Go tell so-and-so that I'm here. There are days that I walk up on spots where I know if I sent a message and said I'm out here, somebody come out there and get me and take me on through the back or wherever, bring me. But I stand in the line because I'm not entitled to anything. Because when you start developing a spirit of entitlement, you begin to impose your will upon every situation, and you fall into this passive aggressive mindset, which is toxic. You manage and manipulate people. I don't ever want to be in a position where I'm managing or manipulating people. King Ahab was that kind of leader, that kind of king. If you go to 1 Kings 21, 1-6, it says, and it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard, which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it. Or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord forbid it me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. This grown man, because somebody told him, no, I don't want to give you or sell you my land. He laying on the bed and I ain't eating nothing because he felt entitled. Verse 5, but Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, why is thy spirit so sad that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, give me thy vineyard for money, or else if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. How many of y'all know folk that's like that? Number one, anybody that's really sad for a real reason, they are usually trying to disguise it because they don't want to have to discuss it with anybody around them. When you see somebody that's just sitting there, they are what? They are campaigning for attention. It is passive aggression. Anybody that's really sad, you're going to usually have to discern it. Nobody's going to be able to just off the cuff just be able to say, what's wrong with you? No. That is passive aggression. But you see how this man felt entitled? He couldn't accept the fact that the man said, no, this is my father's inheritance. I don't want to give you this. I'm not going to give you this, and I'm not going to sell it to you. I don't want to exchange it for nothing else. But look at how he conducted himself with that passive aggression. Number 3, people whose hearts are just polluted will exercise passive aggression. People just never really meant you well, never really meant you right. They will always keep your life topsy-turvy, just with that bad energy, because their hearts were always in the wrong place. Listen to what Jesus says in Matthew 15:8. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They're saying one thing, but their heart is somewhere else. Number 4, people attempting to usurp authority practice passive aggressive behavior. People who want to take the authority that you have on the job, in the workplace, in the ministry, in the business, in government, will use passive aggressive tendencies to take your authority, to use your authority to hurt the people they want to hurt, or to empower the people they want to empower. They'll use passive aggressive tendencies to usurp your authority. King David had a son by the name of Absalom. And you got to read the whole story. But Absalom and David, did not see eye to eye, fell out for some very serious reasons. Read the story. But if you look in 2 Samuel 15:6-10, it says, and on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. It came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. For thy servant vowed a vow while I abode at Geshur in Syria, saying, if the Lord shall bring me again indeed to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. And the king said unto him, go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as ye hear the sound of the trumpet, then ye shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. So Absalom is, using this passive aggression to win the hearts of the people coming to be judged by the king. Absalom intercepting the people and talking about his daddy, talking about what he would do, because people that want to usurp your authority, that's why, and this is just a side note, that's why if you are over people, keep your finger on the pulse of your organization. Don't rely on any 1 or 2 people to tell you everything about the people in your organization, because sometimes you have Absaloms on your job, in your ministry. You have Absaloms Now, let me shut it down with this. How do we deal with passive aggressive people? Number one, never react to people. Always process. Because passive aggressive people are trying to push you to react. They want to push a button and make you jump, no. Never react to people. Always process. I don't care what you feel emotionally initially. Don't roll with that. Don't rock with that. Take your time to process so you're not reacting, you're responding, if you respond at all. Sometimes the best response is none at all. In James 1:19, it says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to get angry." Number one, never react to people, always process. And begin to discern everybody around you. Everybody around you. You have more passive aggressive people around you than you realize. Number two, never do what you don't feel good about doing. If you don't feel good about doing it, don't do it. If you don't have a witness in your spirit that this is what you should be doing, this is what I should be doing, do not do it. Never do what you don't feel good about doing. If you just stop doing what you don't feel good about doing, you're going to begin to see a great falling away. See, because you continue to do things that people want you to do, they hang around and they keep telling you about how much they love you and they're with you. When you stop doing what you don't feel good about doing. Number three, learn to say no without any guilt. No malice, no guilt. You're going to do it? No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like that's right for me. No, I'm not doing that. Want to go get some lunch? No, I don't want to get no lunch. You just told me no. Well, what you want me to do? Tell you yes when I mean no? You want me to lie to you? Number four, and finally, put distance between you and passive aggressive people. Now, honestly, here's the honest truth. And this is coming from one empath to many others, I'm certain. I feel people and I don't like to hurt people's feelings, but you know what I'm learning? The only way to really deal with passive aggressive people is aggressively. When it's no, it's no. And, just direct, not necessarily, maybe not even aggressively is not even a good word. Definitively and assertively, just speak your mind. No, I'm not going to do it. I know you asked me to do it, but no, I'm not with that. I hope you understand. When you start functioning like that, they drop like flies. And number four, put distance between you and passive aggressive people. Once you discern that a person or people are passive aggressive and they're doing all kind of old funny stuff and they shifting your environment and they changing the climate and temperature in you around your life, man, life is too short to be tolerating that kind of stuff. You don't need to tolerate that. Proverbs 22:24 and 25 says, "Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul." While you dealing with them, there's a lot of tension and anger wrapped up in them. You don't realize that stuff is rubbing off on you, and you creating a soul tie here. Get this situation, man. Put these people far away from you. Better to walk alone, just you and God, than to have a whole lot of people smiling on the outside, got those daggers on the other side. No, ma'am, no, sir. So I hope that you got something out of this today. That's my prayer. That's my prayer. Now, listen, for those of you that are watching this, I want you to know that the Spirit of God is covering you. The Spirit of God is covering you. And I know that you have, you're trying to figure out all of these different people in your life. The Spirit of God is covering you. And the Spirit of God is going to rescue you from every evil person. I promise you that. So I hope that you got blessed today. Now listen.